Okay, and while they come up, I'll just introduce our moderator. Our moderator is Ali Greenslade from the Otipemisiwak Métis government of Alberta. And Ali will be moderating our session here, and she'll introduce all of our speakers. Thank you, Ali.
Awesome. Thank you, Kara. I'll come to the end after. Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy to still see lots of filled seats this morning. Initially, this panel was going to be at 8 a.m., so you're welcome. So as Kara said, my name is Ali Greenslade. I work for the Otipemisiwak Métis government of Alberta, which is also commonly referred to as the Métis Nation of Alberta. For those of you who aren't familiar, we provide programs and services and advocate for nearly 70,000 Métis citizens across Alberta. I've also had the pleasure of being on the organizing committee for this conference. And really thrilled to moderate a panel for my first time talking about local initiatives here in Alberta. So I also wanted to start off and just extend my gratitude towards Elder Heather Patra for her words yesterday, talking about kindness and relation, and also talking about how we need to look to matriarchs in our network and our community for guidance. And I was having breakfast with some of my panelists here, and I think lots of that will shine through today. Also, just personally, I'm born and raised in Edmonton, and just really grateful to be here with all of you, in Treaty 6 territory in the Métis Nation, Whitemud District 10, to talk about climate resilience. And I was talking with Kara yesterday about, this conference and this event, and I'm curious, show of hands, I promise you don't have to do anything crazy, but show of hands, has anyone been to a climate adaptation focused conference in Alberta before? One person? Two? Three? Okay, that's cool. And maybe for the people online, if you want to type in the chat if you've also been to one. This is my first climate adaptation conference. Looks like most of the people in the room, it's their first climate adaptation conference. So that's pretty cool. And I just want to say thank you to ClimateWest for putting this on and making it free for everyone to come. So maybe a quick round of applause for ClimateWest. All right, so we'll get into it. Yesterday we heard a lot about climate science, projections, kind of ecosystem changes, and also ways we can work and collaborate better together. But now we're going to talk to some people that are not just talking the talk, they're also very much walking the walk in terms of climate action locally. So I'm going to let them each introduce themselves and then talk a little bit about the organization or project they're representing. So we'll start with Heather Wheelker at the end here, and then we'll come this way. I'm going to come this way.
Good morning. Good morning, I'm Heather Wheelker. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate on this panel. I work at the City of Edmonton. I've been working on community mobilization projects, specifically in the Climate and Environment Office at the city for over 14 years. And prior to that, my career, I was involved in basically the same thing, but on many different topics: species at risk, waste education, water education, and so on. My background is in sociology, environmental sciences, and community development, and I think that gives me a good grounding in my work. And I'm going to be speaking about neighboring for climate this morning.
Hi. Oh, great. Awesome. And sorry, and do we want to share your slides as we go through the introductions? Okay, let's do a quick introduction, then we'll do the slides. So Jill, if you want to introduce yourself quickly.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jill Yanch. I work with the town of Bruderheim and also do a lot of work with other municipalities and First Nations I'm coming to speak with you today about a program that we have called Resilient Rurals. And we help small and rural communities across Alberta and moving towards working through the prairies. So thank you.
Thanks, Jill. And Adrian?
Hi, I'm Adrienne Conrad. I am a teacher at Highland School with Lily over here, who will introduce herself briefly. On top of that, I volunteer through a few different local organizations. And those organizations are Common Horizon and For Kids Alberta. So I will be speaking to those organizations and what we've been up to.
My name is Lily Halton, and I'm representing the Highland School Climate Club that me and Miss Conrad here started like a couple months ago. So yeah.
So thank you all for being here. And okay, Lily, first question, are you skipping school to be with us today?
Yes, I am.
Cool. I heard of this other young woman who did that and made some pretty big waves.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Well, I think we'll kind of get into all of our panelists have prepared a brief presentation. So I'll invite Heather Wheeler to share with us. Thanks so much.
Is there a slide advancer? Thanks. Okay, we'll get right into it. Just a very brief, but I would say important acknowledgement that I'm presenting on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and the traditional Métis homeland. And I'm always pleased to take this time to remind ourselves that we're all treaty people, regardless of where we're from or what languages we speak. Each of us shares responsibility for creating and nurturing an inclusive community. And while I'm sorry that Dr. Jones had to step away at the last minute, I am really thrilled to be able to share a little bit about the Neighboring for Climate program. And just before we dive into the program, I'll just provide a little bit of context about how the Neighboring for Climate program came to be. So within the city of Edmonton, we have a city plan, which really gives our overall direction. And within that plan, there are two sub-plans, two of which specifically address climate change. So first, the focus of Edmonton's community energy transition strategy and action plan is about reducing greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating climate change. And secondly, we're already experiencing the effects of climate change. So we need to be prepared and take action to manage those risks. So adaptation is the focus of Climate Resilient Edmonton Adaptation Strategy and Action Plan. Goals and actions in both of those plans indicate that citizens need to be involved. The city employs approximately 12,000 staff, but we serve over 1 million people. And so how can we effectively work with citizens and make these changes with and for them? Really, we have to provide citizens with the tools so that they can participate in these very large initiatives. So the Neighboring for Climate program was born from the Adaptation Strategy and Action Plan. In yesterday's, whoops, where are we here? Okay, so yesterday, during opening remarks, ClimateWest Board Chair Elaine Fox talked about the local nature of climate adaptation and climate change. And while I don't know that she meant this local, the Neighboring for Climate program certainly is all about adapting your local space. So in the fall of 2022, we worked with citizens to co-create this program. And they made it clear from the very beginning, no more strategies, no more plans, no more guidebooks. We want to do stuff. And so action is really what they got, along with other guiding principles for the program. So action focusing on what we can do, We all know that climate action is important, but how do we take that next step? They wanted it to be easy and tangible, help neighbors to tackle very simple but achievable changes together, make it inclusive and accessible, include actions that anyone can do regardless of their age or ability or even their starting point. It's an entry point for everyone. They wanted it to be shareable, so that neighbors can spread their work among other neighbors in the community, find ways to celebrate our successes, and make sure that it's beyond climate. They didn't want it to just focus on climate change. And in fact, during those sessions, when it came time to name the program, they said, we're not including climate change in it. And I said, yes, we are. We're funding this. Yes, we are. And so I think part of that was a nervousness of interacting with neighbors on their street and interacting with potential climate deniers. It is neighboring for climate, but it does include, I'll go through some of the kit materials. It does include many other topics as well. I will say, though, an annual survey that we do each year, climate perception surveys, that we have approximately 73% of citizens saying this is important and we need to start taking action yesterday. So the benefits of working together with neighbors, these are peer reviewed and researched all around the world. Neighborhoods are the place where things happen. It's the place that we call home. It's the place that we have most invested financially as well as emotionally. And so by supporting one another, we can create resilient neighborhoods that benefit everyone in terms of our society, our health, environmental benefits, and financial benefits too. The program provides tools to help you get to know your neighbors, and citizens have said, how many doors do I have to knock on? It's like, no, not 300 doors in your community. Just keep it close, get to know the neighbors on either side of you, across from you, and then work your way up and down the street. And maybe at some point you'll get all the way around the block. And so it really is a neighbor to neighbor program. It includes a guidebook with tips for initiating conversations with your neighbors. There are action cards that are color-coded by topics, and many of the cards indicate a link for online resources that you can access on the online hub under additional resources. When we first started working with citizens, I really thought this was going to be an emergency preparedness program. When I was working on this strategy with staff in the very early days, I started thinking about how are we going to move this into the hands of citizens to make this relevant and meaningful for them. And looking at the climate projections for Edmonton and the climate hazards, I thought this is, we're going to be focusing on emergency preparedness. But as I said, the citizens, I won the name, we have climate in the name, but they won me over in making sure that we included not just emergency preparedness, but also nature and plants, food security, energy and fuel savings, and waste and water. So the kit itself is, everything's packed into a nice little box. When we piloted it in 2023, last summer, it was in a clear plastic sort of sleeve. And that was a no-no. We heard that loud and clear. So now it's in a nice little box, which actually is quite practical because I'm always concerned, how are we going to mail this out? Or how are we going to stack these up for taking out to workshops? And you can easily flip that box over and slap an address on it, and off it goes through the mail. We also did engagement with citizens last fall after the bulk of the summer pilot was winding down. And that was with people who live in apartments and condos. And I thought that we'd end up with two separate programs, one that served two audiences depending on your living space. But every card that we wanted to remove from the pack, they said, no, we like that one, leave that one in. So we went through all of the cards and decided it's one kit for everyone. And I think there's no right or wrong way to use the materials. You can adjust it for your own needs. So the action cards help you to identify what you can do with your neighbors. They're a little bit larger than a playing deck, and they're meant so that you can sit down together at a kitchen table, read through bite-sized pieces of information and sort and decide on what it is that you're going to work on. Each card looks pretty much the same in terms of the layout and the information. So the front of the card says why that action is important, and the back of the card tells you what that action is. It also provides information about the level of effort, low effort up to high effort, which season is best, a unique number so you can track your efforts, tags to help you decide if it's suitable for let's say bulk shopping or family friendly. And at the end of yesterday's session, the youth panel talked about how we can engage young people in this work. And I think this neighboring program is just one small piece of that in that young people can be involved and they can even decide what actions are best suited in their neighborhood and take some leadership in that way. The starter guide explains just how the whole program is set up. And I think this is one of the most important pieces. The first action is getting to know your neighbors. And so this may be a struggle for some. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you in the room know at least 2 neighbors on your street? Okay, good. That's a really good start because, you know, when trouble hits, you're not going to be going to your friend who lives on the far side of the city or 10 miles down the country road. You need to know who's near you. So the starter actions are really kind of the grounding for the program, starting with getting to know your neighbors. And if you ever have to replenish the kit, all of these materials are all online and you can download them or you can just use them from the comfort of your phone. It points to additional resources too. So what's on the cards is really just a starting point. And we've heard, I already do this stuff, I need to do more. Well, you can certainly do more, and the city has lots of programs to help you with that. And there are also posters and postcards that you can leave on your neighbor's door just to help you to get a group of people together initially. We've only just launched it. We finalized the kit. We launched it in April. 40 citizens did show up. They've got their kits. We'll be delivering another workshop session next week at the Ritchie Community League. If anyone's interested, everybody is welcome. So we've only got 42 kits out in the community at this moment, so I can't tell you really how it's going. But one learning that I took away from the 2 workshops is that I heard a lot of I's. I do this, I have a garden, I compost, I turn out my lights when I'm not in the room. And that's great, but what we want to do is change that I to a we, and have the I start teaching and helping and transferring their skills to other neighbors on their street, so that it becomes more of we, and we're working together to make a change for climate. So I'll leave it there.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Heather. It's great to see that the city has created this very, tangible and adaptable kind of family-friendly tool. I think I heard in a podcast, I think it was Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson said that, one of the best adaptation actions you can do is to bake a pie for your neighbor. And for those of us that have absolutely no baking skills, it's great to know that there's another tool at our disposal. But now I'll invite Jill Yanch, the Director of Resilient Rurals, to come up and share a little bit about all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you, Ali, and thank you very much for that, Heather. It's really great to see it's got that holistic and resilience feel to that. Thank you very much to ClimateWest for inviting me and our group to come and share. Before I get started, I want to do a shout out to Danielle Hauk. She's at the back. She's one of our project assistants and super grateful for the work that she does. I also wanted to touch on the land on the place that we're gathering. Land has been really what has brought me here. So want to recognize that that we're on Treaty 7 and the Métis homeland. I grew up on a farm, and so land and my connection to it was something that really has shaped me. And so I have a background in environmental science and a very, very strong passion for small and rural communities. And as I mentioned, I get the privilege of working with many municipalities and Indigenous communities. So that's kind of what I'm bringing here today. Also want to mention that I'm super honored to share this with a youth member. That's really great to see. Okay, this is a very high-tech slide. Okay, perfect. I'm not a tech person. Okay, so Resilient Rurals, we started as a partnership between 3 small communities, Bruderheim, Gibbons, and Lamont. We're all under 5,000 population in Alberta's industrial heartland. And as I mentioned, I work for the town of Bruderheim, and we are the lead for this partnership. And our focus really has been about building that holistic resilience approach, and really finding something that fits with small communities. And so we often say that we were created by small communities for small communities. We started in 2016, and I guess I'll give another shout out to Jeff Sikuski, also at the back. We had a Climate Resilience Express workshop, and it was really great to see all the different perspectives in the room. And climate adaptation at that point was kind of a new buzzword. And with my background and my interest, I was really keen to see what our community, what the response was. And we talked a lot about climate, but we didn't talk too much about our capacity to respond, and all the different factors across, human resources, planning, all those different pieces that tie into it for our community. And so I approached our council and I asked if we could really build on that action plan that we received through that process. And we invited a number of other communities to partner with us, and it's been a really incredible journey working with everybody. So we developed a regional plan in 2020, and we've just been working to knock things off that plan. And Danielle has been very, very helpful in achieving that for us, because originally it was me doing it on the side of my desk, probably a few hours, and it would take me 50 years to get all of it done. It's a very ambitious plan. So as I mentioned, we wanted more of a holistic approach. And so we have our climate priorities. We want to look at the things like flooding and the heat and the wildfires, those typical things that we always deal with climate. But we also really wanted to look at social aspects and our business continuity aspects, and really get a sense of how all of our different departments are going to apply and implement these principles. Because part of it was, we recognize that smaller municipalities we're structured very, very differently from larger urban centers. And so responding to climate is going to look very different. And there wasn't, at that time, there wasn't really a model for us. And so that's essentially what we've been trying to do, is build a model for us. So I'm just gonna run through these slides pretty quick. These are some of the things that we've built over the past few years and that are available on our website for other communities to access. We have a number of fact sheets and social posts, and they've been organized into social media toolkits. So there's different hazard areas, different information areas, and so you can go on there, download them, and use those for your own purposes. We've also, through these last 5 years, we've done a lot of research. And so we've really recognized all the work that's already been done in this space, which I'm sure I missed yesterday, but it sounds like it was fantastic and there was a lot of learning and resources. But so what we've done is kind of pooled everything that we found and organized it on our site as kind of a one-stop shop. So you can come and see, you know, what we've combined. And there's a number of guides on there as well. Rural Assist is one program that we started in terms of how we can support and address our vulnerable populations. So the program that we created was a way for us to identify who our our vulnerable populations were, and how we can best assist them. And so wanted to set up kind of a pipeline of information and support so that we're ready to support those people. And it started, there was an event, we had to turn the water off in town. And there was an individual who required water for medical purposes. I believe it was a dialysis unit. And so we recognized that with the size of our community was actually a really great advantage for us to be able to have that kind of neighborly approach and to really identify how we can better support each other. So the Rural Assist, we started to pilot it, and like many other small communities, had many roadblocks, so we're still kind of in that pilot stage. We've also developed a cooling center guide and a community water planning guide. Some really great basic information in those just to provide guidance. And then we have a Rural Ready program. And that is, you know, some mock scenarios for our staff and a program where we can involve our community and throwing out all different kinds of mock scenarios, you know, like in this moment, how would you respond to this? Just part of that emergency response, but also not necessarily emergency response, right? How do we respond to various factors? We were really blessed to do a project, a food sovereignty project. It was a cross-cultural, working with municipalities and Indigenous communities. And another shout out to, I see Ronick over here. He supported us. So through Municipal Climate Change Action Center funding, this was one of our projects. And yeah, very supportive, very grateful. So we were able to do a workshop, a one-day workshop, and brought a number of people together. And it's really incredible to see the work that's being done in terms of food sovereignty. And we have 4 webinars available online with some really great individuals, some great resources. We developed a training program as well, tied to food sovereignty and the cross-cultural aspects of that. So we're just finalizing it with some of the elder contributions. So really excited for that to be completed. The project outcomes for that was really about that learning, the cross-cultural learning and how we can support each other, raising awareness for climate adaptation measures and building regional partnerships. So where we're at right now is we're really looking at how this approach that we've taken has supported our communities and how we can develop that into like a formal model that we can present and support, deliver with other small and rural communities. Really, it's a blueprint for regional partnership for climate adaptation and for resilience. I found this quote and it really struck home with me. I'm just going to read it. It says, "I think rural and Indigenous alliances have the potential to be the most transformative relationships in this country, even as they remain the least likely to occur." And so I'm kind of saying we're up for that challenge. The model that we're building, I think, will really support us in building those regional partnerships that are going to be really important in finding our path forward. You can find us at resilientrurals.com. If you have any questions, connect at resilientrurals.com. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jill. I was looking at your website online the other day and I couldn't believe the breadth of resources that your organization has developed. And it's so great to see all the partnerships you've developed and the range of work you're doing. Brett Houston mentioned yesterday that, you know, ecosystems don't see boundaries. And, you know, within the climate crisis, we know that we, you know, sometimes get stuck working in silos. And it's great to see that there are organizations like yours that are breaking down some of those silos and doing really, really great work. So thank you for sharing with us today. Next on deck, we have Adrian Conrad, who wears many hats, but I'll let Adrian take it away and share a little bit about Common Horizons and For Our Kids.
Thank you, Ali. Okay, I'm gonna just press some buttons first here to see if I can make this. Is it the big green one? Okay. Green means go. Okay, got it. All right, I'll briefly just introduce myself before kind of going into these different organizations. So my name is Adrian Conrad, and I got into organizing with local groups after the birth of my son, who is now just over a year and a half. It wasn't an option for me. It kind of just got to the point where my entire world, I'm sure most of you are parents, some of your parents in this room, and it just shifts your entire worldview and really changes what's important and imperative. And I'm up here. I do all this to fight for my son's future and any youth. That's why I'm here. That's why I've gotten into this work. So, and I think that this sentiment's become very clear with the other presenters so far on the panel. But today is about climate, or this conference is about climate resilience, and that's the ability to anticipate, prepare, and respond to events related to climate change. And for a community to be climate resilient, individuals must be resilient. And I think that that was showcased pretty well so far. So strong grassroots organizations and social movements that connect individuals to their community, whether that's through their neighborhood, through the old lady across the street, or through formal organizations, that's going to build up that resilience. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So the first organization that I volunteer for is called Common Horizon. And it's a cross-Canada organization that is building a mass movement of young people to take power away from the billionaire class and win solutions for the climate crisis that secure good work, address affordability, and ensure a dignified life for all. So we're primarily focused on organizing young workers who kind of are in this space where they are in that 73%. They know that the climate crisis is a massive problem, but just don't really know where to go or how to build it into their day-to-day life. Everyone works their 9 to 5. So we want to help them build their power through their workplace and the communities that they're already part of. So kind of part of this is not recreating the wheel. So we believe that for the past decade or so, organizations have often been focused on mobilizing people and kind of turning out the same crowd time and time again. And then it just becomes a little bit of that silo, as Ali mentioned. So we are targeting an audience that cares about this, but hasn't done anything yet. And we're doing that through organizing through institutions that all these working class people already belong to. So workplaces, unions, and their neighborhoods. We have a 5 to 7 year plan. We are in like month 10 of this 5 to 7 year plan to build a mass movement of young people across the country, fighting for sectoral solutions that our workplace and communities deserve. And we are doing that through different campaigns, so national campaigns, sectoral campaigns, and when the time comes, electoral campaigns. So yeah, and kind of one of the pieces about this that I think is really powerful within Common Horizon is lots of these, everyone, again, that 73% knows that climate change is real and urgent, but sometimes can't picture solutions for themselves in their day-to-day lives. So that's really what joining this group is about, is helping people, showing them that we can build that into our unions. We can advocate for climate solutions and a just and dignified future through our workplaces. So that is kind of a little summary of Common Horizon. And I will move on to the other organization, which is For Our Kids Canada. This organization is a lot more established. Has anyone heard of this organization before? Oh, okay, great, 2 hands. Okay, awesome. So this was kind of where I started about, I've only been doing organizing work literally since, like, for almost just under 2 years, since my son was born. So I was postpartum, crying on my computer while my kid was napping, being like, I need to connect somewhere. I need somewhere to go. I can't be just in my brain any longer. So I knew that my drive was the birth of my son, Hank. So I was like, parents, climate anxiety, action, Google searching. And this is what turned up. So that is, so For Our Kids is a parent-led network of volunteers driven to take climate action for our kids, grandkids, and future generations. We were talking this morning at breakfast. I was speaking with Jen and Ali, and we were talking about the 7 generations concept. And I think that that's the only kind of way that we should be thinking, is we need to think about the Lilies. We need to think about the Hanks. So For Our Kids teams gather all across Canada. So I'm part of the Alberta team. And as you can imagine, it's quite a small team, but it is growing. And the network welcomes all parents and families with a passion for creating a better world and a belief that climate action is one of the most important things we can do for our kids. Lily, would you agree? She would agree. So some of the things that we've been doing with For Our Kids in the last little while include, I spoke with Claire Kratz, who is kind of the Alberta For Our Kids climate mom. And she and I spoke at the Alberta Student Council Association conference that was held here a few weekends ago. And we hosted a little session on empowering parents into climate action. And so that's one of the things that we've been doing, but it's very multifaceted. Claire has just recently got 2 policies passed that were passed at the most recent Alberta School Council Association AGM. And those policies are on climate and biodiversity and clean air in schools. So these are some really important things that are going to affect our children, our grandkids, and just the youth that are part of Alberta, that we need to show them that we care about. So Claire has done some really groundbreaking work in advocating for those things. In Camrose, the Alberta, or one of the For Our Kids moms who works out of there, she started a bike bus for kids to bike to and from school. And she's started a lot of climate clubs that she's hosting at the local library, and we have monthly meetings, and she said that they've been really inspiring, and there's been some unconventional faces turn up, people who, some of them work in oil and gas, to have conversations on things that are changing and how those moms and dads can support their kids. So For Our Kids is just a very, very inviting space, and I've just been very lucky to be a part of it. And yeah, so what I'll do is I'll sit, and then I'll let Lily come up and speak to the last little thing that I've kind of helped bring together, which is the climate club at the school that I teach at. So this is just add it to the list of things that I'm doing. Another little initiative that we've put together that Lily will come up and speak to momentarily. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Adrian. And Lily, if you want to go to the podium or sit down wherever you're comfortable. Oops. Yeah, there's some some people that might come adjust it for you. Yeah, please welcome Lily Halton, our headliner for this panel.
Thank you. Okay, hello, my name is Lily Halton, and I'm in the 9th grade, and I attend Highland School. So, yeah, my goal when starting Climate Club with Miss Conrad here was to like start the conversation of of climate change, like among my classmates and like among my friends, and just to make it like more normalized and more comfortable. I also started Climate Club to like find find all the curious and passionate students in my K-9 school, and there are a lot of them. Yeah, there's me and my friend at the Bennett Center climate summit that we all went to. We missed 3 days of school, and we really kind of just like dissected our many ideas and like kind of aspirations we had for climate action in our schools. So that was really cool. But yeah, just some background information on kind of like my feelings before I started Climate Club. So I had this idea, like I feel like most of the adults in this room, like you grew up in a time where climate change was like almost a future issue. Like it was a vague kind of problem that was talked about in terms of like reduce, reuse, and recycle. And when it was discussed, maybe you felt like you had lots of time and like to figure it out. But now I feel like it's just that that perspective has really changed. And all youth and children today, I feel like we're kind of stuck in a position where the like impacts of climate change are like they're changing my life now. They're changing my future now, right? So youth like me, we're kind of regarded as children that maybe might not have as much independence like in the world. And we feel like we're too young to really make a difference, right? We can't like get a job in conservation or drive ourselves to rallies and protests. Like I don't even have my learner's license yet. So, but that is a goal. Yeah. So before starting Climate Club, I felt really frustrated that teachers weren't making climate change a bigger deal. Like they weren't bringing it up as like a frequent topic of conversation. And the less it was talked about, the more that other students felt it was like cringy and like nerdy to like talk about climate change. I don't know, but that's kind of how I felt. I felt really alone. But yeah, though now I think about it, and maybe that was just a way to cope, you know, with climate change. So yeah. I felt like students like me who stayed up at night worrying about the climate, I felt like I couldn't talk about it without being noticed as like being pushy and like no one wants to hear about that, right? But yeah, and then I was kind of honestly surprised by the amount of kids that showed up the first day. It might have been because I offered cookies, but we still, going forwards, we still did have a lot of attendance. And it's really just created a space, like a community of youth who can come together. Ah, yes. It's like created a community of youth that can come together, and like it helps us process the emotions. Like also, I was frustrated again by the lack of the discussion of the emotional aspect of climate change, you know? Like teachers were teaching the science, which is great, but people kind of forgot about just how deeply this global issue is like impacting youth like me. So yeah, it's this Climate Club, it affirms and provides an outlet for action, and it helps kids realize that this might sound cliche, but we have a voice. And it's for everyone. Climate action is for everyone. If you're in 4th grade, if you're in 5th grade, yeah. So again, to kind of reemphasize that point, before Climate Club, I was doing like this 30-minute educational segment in the announcements, 30-second, not 30-minute. I didn't, but the point is that I could talk for 30 minutes. The point is that I didn't even use my name. I used an AI voiceover because I thought it was nerdy. I was oblivious to the fact that so many other students were actually also concerned about this issue. Yeah. And I will also like to point out that I don't need another thing to be anxious about, right? Like I want to be here, but also I don't want to be here. Like I want to be in math class. I have provincial achievement tests coming up. I don't want to be here. But it's yeah. So we don't need this to be on our shoulders. But that's how it's been feeling like recently. But with Climate Club, I think it's a place where I can find I'm not alone anymore. And yeah, I'm like together with other classmates. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lily. And I have to say, if you want to stick around for a little longer, you are in the right room. No one here thinks it's cringy to talk about climate change. There's a whole bunch of us climate nerds here that would be stoked to talk to you. And we made a rule at breakfast. If anyone after this comes up and tells Lily she's inspiring, you have to give her $10 for the school climate club. Okay? Yeah? And just, I'm gonna say it one more time, Adrian and Lily are both here on a completely voluntary basis. They do all of this work at a grassroots volunteer level. And I just have to say thank you so much for coming to share your perspectives. For lots of us that, get paid to work in this space, I don't want to say it's hopeful. Honestly, I share your frustration in the sense that there's so much to do, and I'm sure you get it a ton of being like tenacious young woman and very highly motivated and doing great work. But I hope it's a reminder to everyone here in the room that, I'm sure you got into this work because, maybe you were scared or maybe you wanted to further conservation, but we have the capacity to do it too. And I hope that, Adrian and Lily, there you can talk to some people in the room and see some of the other great work that is also happening. Okay, we are maybe a little bit behind on time, but I want to get the chance to ask our panelists a few more questions. I'm going to start with you, Adrian. I'm wondering if you can share about some of the, maybe one example of a local initiative that one of the organizations you work for has done recently.
Yeah, so I spoke about some of the initiatives that For Our Kids has been doing, so I can speak to Common Horizon. So we recently had our first kind of official action as an organization a few weeks ago. We posted up at the top of the Glenora stairs, kind of by the Royal Glenora Club. If anyone's ever run those stairs, they're difficult. We posted up there and we hosted a bake sale. And it was a satirical bake sale. And the bake sale was to raise money for the programs and services that were not included in the most recent federal budget. So $31 billion, we raised 93. And yes, it was just amazing and really fun. And the whole point was to kind of raise awareness to the fact that we could be, our governments could be putting more money into the necessary programs and services to provide Canadians with a more climate resilient and financially sound future. But at this point, we were raising awareness to the point that it seems like perhaps the government's a little bit tied up with their buddies in oil and gas, and they could just put an excess profit tax on those companies to make it so we didn't have to host a bake sale, but we hosted a bake sale anyways, and the goods were delicious. And yeah, so Common Horizon is doing a lot of like fun little events like that. Our next proposed action is a billionaire block party. So we are going to have a piñata tight up to the ceiling and everyone can try and hit it, but it won't be able to be hit. And just fun little stuff like that. So if you are interested in getting involved in either of those organizations, Common Horizon or For Our Kids, let me know and I can provide you with the contact information.
Great, thank you. Okay, Lily, question for you. So there's all these people in the room and online that work in climate change across the prairies. You've spoken a little bit about how the inaction in the climate crisis has affected you. I'm wondering if you could share, if you had one wish to share with all the people in the room, what would it be?
Only one. Well, so if I had one wish, okay, I think it would be just to like, where's my notes? Sorry, not organized at all. Okay. Okay, if you could all grant one wish, it would probably be to like take accountability. It would be to like step up. You're all adults, you know. You're all independent people. It would be to like step into the roles that kind of come with adulthood. Like the youth shouldn't be the bravest in the room, is what I'm trying to say, you know? Like when you're an adult, it's the time to like empower your children and the people around you, to use your influence and to keep and exceed the promises that you make. And remember that like you can still fix this, but it's not just you. It's like we can still fix this. The youth, like, and me too. Also just to like really break that disconnect between the youth and the adults, you know? Like it's like my generation, we're the generations that we're the activists. We're the youth that are like supposed to be rising up and like, you know, going to protests and like skipping school to be here. But I just feel like we shouldn't have to do that. Yeah, we shouldn't have to do it on our own. Yeah, adults and youth, I just my wish is that we can like come together and you can listen to youth's voices just as much as youth can listen to yours. And just remember that as adults, you have the influence to like keep promises and like expand on them. So thank you.
Hey, you heard it here. We all need to step up and hold each other accountable, okay? Okay, I'm very aware I have 3 minutes left and I have a question still left for Jill and Heather. So maybe really quickly, Heather, you mentioned within the neighboring program, you thought that emergency preparedness would kind of be foundational as part of this program. And I'm wondering maybe why there was the shift or why you thought that would be the initial kind of influence.
Just before I respond to that, when Lily talked about the emotional support that we need in this work, part of the Neighboring for Climate program is to offer people hope and provide each other with that support too. So the reason why I thought it would be much more emergency preparedness was part of the work when we were developing the actual strategy. It really occurred to me that we're not prepared for this at all. And then of course, fires that have happened in the province, floods and so on. And so I thought this is going to be it. This is what the program will be all about. And some of you have heard this story. When we were developing the program itself, meeting with citizens, I happened to land on the East Coast just after Hurricane Fiona had roared up the coast, and I get emotional because after the hurricane, for 3 days, it was just silence. There was nothing on the internet, nothing on social media. You couldn't follow anyone because everything was down. The only line that I knew that was actually working was my mother's, and she was just shy of her 88th birthday at the time. And years prior, because they lose their power all the time, I bought her a phone that you can plug directly into a jack. And so you don't need your electricity to run the phone. So I was in contact with her, but nobody else. And so she survived 11 days without power. Her neighbors knew that she had a propane stove and a propane fireplace. And so at least the temperature wasn't too bad. So heat wasn't the real issue, or cold. But 11 days, no power. And then just this winter, she was 4 days locked in her house, her and hundreds of others, when they got over 4 feet of snow in one dump on the weekend when most people go grocery shopping. And so social media was active, power was on, cell towers were working, radio was working. And it was interesting to follow what was happening on social media. So the few people who could get out of their homes because their doors would open, those people were saying, I've just run up to the store. I'm going to the store. Does anyone need anything? And then next thing, store shelves are being emptied because everyone's going for milk, bread, baby formula, the necessities, and no goods were coming onto the island. This is Cape Breton Island. And so it's just, people rely on each other, started opening up their pantries. Sorry. And I don't know, I'm crying, but it's just, we need each other to get through these. And I think Edmonton's been a pretty safe space. We welcome and invite people in and host them when bad things happen in other places. But I think we all need to be prepared.
Thank you so much for sharing that all with us. Yes, round of applause. And, for those of us that, have been fortunate to not experience something like that, it is such a good reminder and to showcase that you did really step up and created this Neighboring for Climate program to help make sure other people are prepared if that situation does occur. So thank you. Okay, Jill, one last question. I'm curious, and I'm sure other people in the room and online are curious as well, if they want to try to replicate some of the great work Resilient Rurals is doing in rural areas. Do you have maybe just, I gave Lily one wish. Do you have one tip or piece of advice for how to kind of replicate some of that work and community connection?
That's a bit of a tough question, simply because it's taken us a few years. So I think the best way would be, once we've developed our model, I'll be looking for core funding so that we can like hopefully replicate in other communities. And again, just emphasizing those regional partnerships, right? As Heather mentioned, we need each other. So really it's just about building relationships and sharing resources. And I just wanted to take a moment to say to Lily that I really heard you with the that you don't want this on your shoulders. And I have a daughter that's your age, and it matters very much to me. So, and what brings me hope is this. I think that there's a lot of brilliance in people, and I have seen firsthand that crisis brings out the best in us. So I believe that there is hope, and so thank you very much for sharing that.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, well, I'm seeing some questions rolling in online, but I think I've gone over my time, unfortunately, so sorry about that. But maybe one more round of applause for all our panelists, and thanks for joining.